In 2015, researchers from the Florida State University set out to do what Aperture Science has allegedly been doing for many years, doing actual science with portals. In their abstract they wrote, "While many researchers believe that problem-solving skills can be improved via video gameplay, few empirical studies support this claim." So, they performed such a study. More precisely, they compared players of the game Portal 2 to people playing on the service called Lumosity, which according to Lumosity itself is the world's most popular brain training program involving many quick brain games in an attempt to help people with all sorts of cognitive tasks. To summarize the results using the researchers' own words, "We tested subjects randomly assigned to play Portal 2 or Lumosity for 8 hours. All were pre and post tested on problem solving, spatial skills and persistence. Portal 2 players scored higher than Lumosity on all 3 constructs, and Portal 2 players also showed significant gains on spatial tests. Lumosity subjects showed no gains in any measure." It is interesting that Portal 2 players seem to score particularly well on spatial tests. Might playing this game really improve one's spatial reasoning so much? Let's do a quick test. Suppose a laser hits a wall portal like so. If I now place the orange portal next to it, in which direction will the laser come out of the portal? To the left or to the right? Think about it for a few moments and make a guess. The answer is to the right. Did you get it? It's an interesting fact that in spite of Portal 2 apparently training players so well in spatial reasoning, there's this great variety of puzzle mechanics involving the spatial orientation of both portals and the objects traveling through them that are only rarely used to their advantage by both players and map makers. Orientation is a subtle concept, especially when portals are involved. In this video, we will explore what kinds of mechanics can be achieved with this idea. So without further ado, let's talk about orientations in Portal 2. To understand the basics of portal orientation, we must first understand how the game places portals on various surfaces. Namely, it matters quite a bit whether the surface is horizontal or vertical. Shooting a portal at a wall surface will always result in a portal with the bottom at the, bottom, and the top at the top. There's no way to flip it around, so to speak. Things are different when placing portals on the floor or on the ceiling, however. Since there's no natural concept of up and down, the game will always place the portal with the bottom facing towards the player and the top will face away. This means that, unlike with wall surfaces, it is perfectly possible to flip portals around in this case. And this fun little observation already allows for some interesting applications. The element that works most obviously well with this idea is the light bridge. As this tiny puzzle here shows, sometimes it's better to have the light bridge come out of the bottom of the portal, and sometimes we want it to come out of the top. If the light bridge is mounted on the ceiling, for example, we can choose which of the two we want, creating interesting situations. And a very quick disclaimer, if you want to avoid spoilers for the puzzles that I will discuss in this video to illustrate the concepts, I've left links to all the maps in the order of their appearance in the description below. To give an example from a fairly recent map, let us look at Hugging Sunlight by Elfie5. Here we must reach the exit by flinging out of this floor surface to gain some height, after which we must use the light bridge to walk to the exit. The light bridge is attached to the ceiling, so it seems to be a good idea to somehow leave our portal on the ceiling, then go through it and jump into the floor to complete the map. But how do we set it up? To get our portal on the ceiling, we must use this pit, but we notice that if we jump in, we don't quite reach the ceiling. How do we get the extra height? The subtle trick here is to use different orientations of the light bridge. To cross this gap, we must have the light bridge come out of the bottom of our portal. Then we use this surface to return to the light bridge, flip it around, and as such enable ourselves to walk along the top of the light bridge here. This gives us just enough extra height to pull off our strategy. It's a very cool trick. A famous example of a map that exploits this idea very heavily is Mevius's Islands. In this map we have 3 light bridges, one of which is mounted on the ceiling. To reach it, some interplay between a high and a low light bridge is required, but the real fun begins when we gain access to it. Namely, from this position we can only get a low light bridge, so we must manually change it to a high bridge in order to do this. Now to make use of this surface, we need a low bridge again. After jumping into the floor here, we flip the light bridge around while flying through the air, move our portal and finally place the high light bridge here to allow us access to this ledge. Now we can easily reach the exit, a masterfully crafted map using 0 connections, cool light bridge logic and unique moves. Once again, I also made a little map illustrating this concept by myself. Here we want to take the cube across to the other side, but because we can only see the light bridge from this angle, we are stuck with a low bridge, whereas we need a high bridge. We can take the cube here though, but can we get it to the fizzler button? Ideally we drop it through the ceiling surface, but with our portal here, the cube keeps falling through too fast. If you remember my previous video about null portals, you will know what to do. You have to close your portals by walking through the fizzler, put the cube in place and there we go. And now we can turn the light bridge around and take the cube to the other side. I'll leave the rest of the solution for you to figure out for yourself. Here's another fairly subtle idea that some players may not realize immediately. When gel hits the floor portal at an angle, it will come out of the other portal at an angle too. Depending on the orientation of the floor portal, this may make the gel drop to the floor immediately or fly upwards and land on the ground a lot farther. This is very useful to keep in mind should you ever find yourself in a situation in which the gel just doesn't seem to land right where you want it to. This can also be used as an intended mechanic in puzzles, as is beautifully illustrated by Libby Bapa's brass boulders. Here the player can choose which of the 2 islands, visible on the monitor, are to be painted with the repulsion gel or the cleansing gel, also commonly known as water. A very elegant design choice that removes the need for 2 separate sets of gel dispensers, further adding a fun logical twist. A similar idea is used in Nerdling Nation's beautiful hammer map called Component, but now involving the player himself. Here the faith plate launches us towards this floor surface at an angle, so if you put our other portal on the floor as well, we will leave it at an angle too. And if we want to fly towards that fizzler there, do you know which way we have to put our portal? Is it like this? Or is it like this? Choose wisely, because one will lead to progress and the other to your untimely yet certain demise. The correct answer is this. So, did you get it right? Perhaps the most subtle application of object orientation in Portal 2 comes from the interaction between laser cubes and portals. Namely, let us take a look at this small map of mine, fittingly called Orientation. We must ride the lift up, but the only way to do that is to get the cube on the button aiming at the receiver while we are standing on the lift. We use the funnel for it, but when we try, we find that the cube is not facing the right way. Cubes always fall from the dropper facing the same direction, so how do we fix this? Let us try to see what happens when the cube does one small loop like this through the portals. Lo and behold, the cube has rotated 90 degrees. Can you see why that has happened? Using this observation, we deduce that we must make the cube do 2 cycles round the loop. And indeed, it will now face the right way and we can use the lift leisurely. Unlike the light bridge, lasers can also interact with wall portals in interesting ways. As in the quick little quiz question at the start of the video, a laser hitting a wall portal at an angle will make it come out of the other portal at an angle as well. Although it can at times produce interesting logic, it is very important to remember that in general you want to avoid using angled lasers through portals as much as possible. It is very easy for maps heavily exploiting this mechanic to turn into a guessing game, that the player will not so much spend their time trying to think about the logic of the map, but instead looking for possible potentially obscure laser angles that they might need to use to their advantage, which is not very fun. Only when the number of possible angles is very limited for example because there's only very few portal surfaces, can employing angled lasers through portals result in good puzzles. One such example is Layers of Cognition by Narcodes. My blind playthrough of this behemoth of a puzzle can be found among the recent videos on this channel, and explaining the solution would take us way too far afield. I will only mention that the scarcity of the portal surfaces makes the only possible angles through portals obvious enough that this is not a guessing game, but instead properly implemented. To conclude, I will discuss one way how you can use portal orientation to sometimes greatly improve the design of your own puzzles. The following situation is very common. Imagine you want to create an area that's not so easy to reach, but this area needs to have a portal surface. So, you want to shield the portal surface from the player. And the most obvious way to do this is just something like this. But this is bad design, because now the player cannot know that there are important portal surfaces hidden from their view. It is important that the player knows exactly where all the portal surfaces are, so that they are not tricked into trying to solve an impossible puzzle. Using glass to shield the portal surface is already a better idea, but this can sometimes look a little awkward. So which solution would I recommend? It is one that's not nearly used as much as it should be. It is elegant and excessively simple, done with only a few mouse clicks. Add a narrow portal surface on the floor or ceiling like this. As we have seen before, portals placed on horizontal surfaces always face in line with the player, so if you try to place one on a surface like this, the game does not allow you. Only when you stand in line with it you can place the portal. If you have the famous mod called Bmod installed, this is very easily achieved. And if not, you can still create the same effect by placing two disabled light bridges on the sides of the surface, making it narrower. I used this in my example map from the Ghost Cube video, allowing me to make this very clear and transparent design. In the phenomenal Greasiest Doorknob by, once again, Libby Bappa, this idea is used masterfully to allow for this extremely open design while still heavily restricting which surfaces can be seen from where. I hope you will find this tip useful for your own designs. As a final example of a very recent map showing the power of portal orientation, let us look at the aptly called Twist and Wiggle by Narcodes. We have access to only two portal surfaces on the floor, and if we orient them right, the laser will turn on the light bridge. But if we want to be in time to catch the dropping cube, we will need to be on the other sides when we activate the dropper, because doing it from here just doesn't give us enough time. The trick here is to flip both portals around, so that reactivating the dropper is now done from this side instead, allowing us to grab the cube. It's crazy how much logic is achieved just by using portal orientation to its full potential, without adding any other items or portal surfaces. I will leave it up to you to play and work out how to reach the exit door from here. You will not regret figuring it out. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video and learned a thing or two that you may not have thought of before. The orientation of both portals and objects are subtle concepts and can create unique and memorable maps with intricate solutions. Good luck and have fun mapping and solving. And as always, thanks for watching. I'm always very grateful for everyone who watches my content, leaves a comment, or just even subscribes to my channel. It really means a lot. I hope to see you all again in the next video. Bye!